Well, hello everybody. Today we're out at Horseshoe Springs, kind of an oasis in the desert, um, west of Salt Lake City and Tooele in the Skull Valley, and north of Dugway. So we take off here and we kind of flew around a little beyond the main area to get a feel for the way the little channels and streams radiate away from the main area towards the west and then ultimately towards the north into the Great Salt Lake. So you can see a channel here that's flowing basically from top to bottom, and that's going again to the west and then ultimately towards the north towards the Great Salt Lake. So now looking towards the east and the mountains that are the source of the water. These are what they call warm springs, and it's believed that the water that comes from the mountains originally percolates into the ground and then is heated by the earth a little bit, mixes with some cooler water, and then finds its way to the surface here in these springs. So it makes a good location for migratory birds during the fall and spring, but also there are resident birds there as well. So it's not a very large location, but as a place of slightly brackish water in the desert, it's a great place for wildlife to find food and rest. Looking sort of northwest into the direction that the water flows towards. There's a small boardwalk that surrounds some of the area, and you can see a trail to the left of the stream channel that follows along kind of a peninsula that sticks into the area. You get some black-necked stilts, some waterfowl, geese, red-winged blackbirds, and some other species as well. And I want you to notice here, I do not recommend pestering wildlife with a drone. And I try my best here to avoid doing that. And the way I do that is to not get so close and to keep going. You know, if you're hovering there close to them, it's going to disturb them. But as you can see, they're barely responding at all. So the idea is to just keep going and not sort of just hover there. Frankly, when I walked the boardwalk, I created a much bigger disturbance by my physical presence than this drone does. A couple of ducks that probably heard the drone, but as you can see, they weren't terribly distraught by it. So flying along into towards the north west and in the direction the water flows, and you can see that it just kind of radiates out in these very kind of thin channels, streams. That tripod there is my audio recording gear. Unfortunately, it was a little windy that day, so there is a lot of wind noise, a fair amount of wind noise. Audio recording outside is tough. Much more difficult than video. Okay, so I've done a kind of a pass around the warm springs itself, and now I'm heading a little bit towards the north along one of these channels, and into an area where you have farming and ranching activity, mostly ranching, I would say. There's a kind of a footpath across, a little bridge across the channel there, and you can see the path radiating out. I don't know if the animals, the cattle, use that or not. I suspect they do. And there's some cattle. About 15 miles further south along the Skull Valley Road there is a much larger cattle ranch with many hundreds of head. This is a much smaller operation. So this was filmed in mid-April of this year, 2018. So it hasn't really blossomed with full spring, summer colors yet. We're a little early for that. But this is the desert, right? So this source of water, although slightly brackish, does provide additional greening or some greening to the area that you wouldn't get without it. But you can see the salt, some of the salt deposits, and any water source that's going to percolate through ground like this is going to have salt in it. Still have a little bit of snow up in the peaks. This place is about 65 miles north of Fish Springs, at the southern end of the Dugway Proving Grounds area. So about 5 miles further south than here is the boundary of the special area prohibiting drone flights that would be related to the Dugway Proving Grounds. So this is perfectly legal to fly here. You can see some stilts there. Fishing is legal here. You do need a permit, but there's debate as to how effective fishing is here. There's some word that the fish are pretty stubborn. Alright, kind of a last look here as we're kind of moving backwards and towards the east. So we're getting close to the end, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day.